founders who are not aware of being mispositioned. They probably need you.
Founders tend to like me because I can see all of the bullshit going on.
What was the trigger point when the founder said, okay, we need to reshuffle things?
Growth had plateaued. We have to steal market share from the acne products that women are buying, vibrators, sex therapy.
What are the first things that you see on a website? They are like totally mispositioned.
Some sort of all-in-one solution if you're just doing it to look sexy at a fundraise. It's like being on a bad date.
This episode is made possible by SaaS 2026, where SaaS meets sea and sand.
So this is actually one of the most interesting interviews that I've been waiting, because it has a lot to do with something that I'm super interested in. I do a lot of it and I don't know much about it.
Honest.
Yeah, so I wanted to introduce our next guest, which is Sara Kathleen Gordon. She scaled Flo Health to £1 billion valuation by repositioning it from a period tracker to women's health platform. Doubled Zoe as general manager in just 2 years. And what makes her even more relatable to the Sastanak and what we're doing here is, and of course to you amazing founders and operators who are watching us, is that Sara repositioned Incident.io helped them decide who their primary ICP is and how are they even pitching to the US market, which resulted in 12x multiple in just a year. She now advises scale-ups on the positioning problems that's eating CAC. Welcome, Sara, to the special edition of the Monkey Business Talk Show and the Sastana conference in Šibenik, where SaaS meets sea, sand, and that we already add that correction there, and SPF.
Thank you for having me.
How are you? How was your trip here?
Doing well. Well, we left Dubai at 5 a.m. and we arrived at midnight. So but it's a proper summer, not Dubai summer, which is
Things here in beautiful Šibenik are still kind of settling in for the real summer, like that Dubai summer. Yeah. And here, entire Balkans just gets like 40 degrees easily during the July, and I don't know, it's also like that on the eastern side.
Yeah.
But I think when you are near the sea, near the water, everything is like super easier. Like those 40 degrees are not that terrible when there's sea.
Exactly. It's a beautiful part of Croatia. The last time I was in Croatia, I was in Dubrovnik as a student in 2008. It was a very different context, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
Wow, Dubrovnik is beautiful.
Dubrovnik in 2008. Considering its history, I don't think it's changed much.
How do you like Sastanak?
It's amazing. The conference talks have been really useful, practical, lots of different AI workflows, and it's good just to get out of from behind our laptops and take a step back and learn from other people. I think everyone's talking about the sort of the mental load of AI on everyone, and we're all sitting at our desks like this, so it's really good to get out from behind the screen and learn from other people and really be inspired.
Yeah.
That's kind of the most difficult part for me as being the crazy extrovert that I am, because I run an agency and working, with this here is inspiring and creative to a certain extent, but I miss constantly that people vibes. And Sastanak is one of the things for me that I meet a lot of people, and that's exactly why I booked like 7 days stay. I wanted to come and to chill and to meet more people and everything. It definitely lacks, especially in this part of the world, to see these advanced events. So I'm quite happy that we have the opportunity to be here. And if it wasn't there, we wouldn't meet you. Yeah. So that's kind of the biggest thing here.
Well, that's great. Okay, go Vladan and pick Sara's.
Yeah. Well, so we have various viewers, and some of them are early stage founders and startups. So. Positioning is something that it's self-explanatory what it is. But when you ask someone what is positioning, the definition may vary because of where are you actually positioned and how. So as someone who's been into that, can just tell us What is positioning?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people approach positioning by going to a brand strategy agency, and then they get a vision and a mission and all of these great things. And that process tends to happen without speaking to customers. And the reason why speaking to customers is so valuable is because positioning is the art of framing. And you need to understand the mindset of the person who you're trying to attract. It's like dating, right? So you have to think about how do you compare to your competition, and then what's my competitive advantage for this type of person that I'm trying to attract. So the process of positioning is much more than brand strategy. It's much more fundamental than that. And so it's thinking about what kind of category is somebody looking for? So what aisle are they going to shop in? But what's driving them into store in the first place? So what's the catalyst for them searching for something that you're selling? So we need to understand what's the catalyst that's getting them to search for a solution to help them with something that's going wrong. What's the category that they're trying to find a solution in? And then, how do they really relate to you as a business through identity? So are you speaking their language? Do you show up with the codes and the symbols that attract them? And again, it's much like you go out into the dating market. You want to find somebody who aligns to your values, who believes in your vision and mission. So that stuff comes later. So the brand strategy, the vision, mission, that comes after you figure out your place in the market. And the category piece is really important because that helps you figure out your pricing.
Do you have like an example which you can say, okay, in this case, for this client, this is branding and this is positioning, so people can understand?
So branding is your visual identity, your tone of voice. Your positioning is I'll give the example of Flo Health. So one of the biggest women's health apps in the world, and their branding is a feather, and it's very light pink, and it's a little bit controversial. And when I joined the business, we had a long conversation about whether or not in 2022, light pink to market a period app is relatable to a customer. And so we debated going through a big rebrand process, which was quite expensive, to change the outfit that the brand was wearing, right? So do we get rid of the feather? Do we get rid of all of these symbols and codes that people identify the brand with? And instead, we spoke to customers and realized it was probably about what we were saying the value is that we can deliver to the customer before we even get to the color palette. And so the color palette and all of that is how I think about branding. It's visual identity, verbal identity. Before that, positioning is messaging, value proposition, differentiated value, category. So those things, much more fundamental than before you get to the brand agency stage.
Think about it as a piece of cake, So what you do, you first bake a cake, you put layers in, your ICP, your positioning, your who are you speaking to, what are your values maybe that are driving that positioning. And then on top of it, you put the icing, you put the cherries, and that's kind of branding. One without the other makes no sense, right? But together, they make a really nice, tasty piece of cake.
Exactly. One is the growth foundations, and one is the system of visual language that helps it scale.
Yeah, and it says, come eat me, try it. I'm very sweet. You will love me.
That's kind of the thing. You mentioned that Flo Health, but in a nutshell, can you walk us through those steps of how you actually managed to complete that entire repositioning campaign?
Yeah. They went through 7-8 years of incredible product-led growth. It is a product-led organization, and a lot of tech businesses are. And so the product team was finally ready for marketing to come in and say, okay, let's figure out what we can take from the product engine and put it into marketing. So we fundamentally started with the product itself. We have a few different features in the product, one called Secret Chats, where women can ask any question. So we mined that data for interesting information about what problems women want to solve. The second was we looked at their content library. So they have hundreds of published articles from doctors. So better than Dr. Google, going to Flo, women have a lot of trust in the content that Flo produces because it's produced by some of the world's leading doctors and scientists. And so we took that and we understood what articles were women reading and which ones are helping them convert at the paywall, right? So we can understand what questions do they have, And then what are they reading? What's helping them convert? So we started there. So we looked at the quantitative picture before we moved to qualitative. We shortlisted maybe 20 different problems that they had. We took those and we recruited from the 60 million active users at the time. In the United States, it's crazy, right? 360 million
active users.
Global users. So we grew that to 85 million active users within the year. And it's because we had conversations with women about, why were they searching for whether or not they could have an orgasm, or what's happened to my sex drive, or why am I dry in parts of my body that like what's going on here? And fundamentally, none of those things really have to do with periods. And so the business was going out, and we're obviously in the period tracking category of the App Store and the Play Store. And, when I sat down with Dimitri, the CEO, on my first day, he said, how are we going to grow market share? How are we going to run our marketing engine? And I said, well, Dimitri, we have to steal market share from the acne products that women are buying, the perimenopause supplements and products that people are using, vibrators, sex therapy. There's dozens of adjacent categories that are related to the periods and the women's cycle every single month. And these are repeatable activities and spends that they have. So if a woman is spending between $500 and $1,000 a month on other things, we can surely capture market share from some of those adjacent categories. And so we mined the data first, then we had customer interviews, and then we built this growth machine where we were testing and iterating different concepts on Meta. We were producing hundreds of creatives a month in mini markets. So we had a localization team, and this was before, we were generating lots of creative with AI, but they've definitely built that muscle in-house. So yeah, it starts with quantitative, qualitative, and then taking those customer insights into the growth systems, which is one of the things that we talked about at the conference today. So Ketty, who actually I worked with when I was at Flo, she was talking about really building these growth systems and growth machines so that you can test things a lot faster. And so it doesn't almost matter your hit rate on creative on Meta. It matters more the pace and the velocity that the systems you construct can actually deliver for the business. So, and that works for software as much as it works for B2C apps.
One question that pops in my mind, I just wrote it down when you were telling the story about Flo. And you said they've been on the market for a few years, and they had this amazing number, 60 million active users. So what was the trigger point when the founders said, okay, we need to reshuffle things, we need to think about our positioning a little bit better?
I think growth had plateaued, and there were only a few concepts on Meta that were still working for them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And the market was just Red Sea saturated, so it was just a commodity.
Yeah.
Even though they had 60 million active
Exactly.
users.
So Apple Health was nipping at their heels, and then a competing app called Period Tracker, very original name, but good for App Store optimization, was nipping at their heels. And those two products are free. And so really the point in which a lot of companies bring me in is they see commoditization happening in their category. This is happening a lot now with ChatGPT and Claude.
AI and vibe coding.
Exactly.
It's going to bring even heavier their commoditization level.
Yeah. So commoditization happens. Founders are thinking, how do I have perceived value within my category? And how do we not only build that from a marketing point of view, but also feed that back to the product? So I think that was the most important part of my role at Flo is I was a bit of a Trojan horse in the product team because everything that we were learning from Meta was going back into the product engine. And so I was flying to Vilnius every 2 weeks and working with the product team to say, okay, we're learning this on Facebook. How do we start building the product to serve this new customer who's coming in?
Yeah, in B2B business, that's like sales, marketing, product loop that we see. I come from B2B mostly. So the sales is, the representation, the arm on the foot on the ground.
Yeah.
And then they talk to marketing team and tell what pitches are working, what are not working, especially when we are talking about low TAM and high value enterprise level clients. That's how it works. And then everything goes into the product as well. So we need to do this, we need to do that. In B2C, it's faster. Obviously, the loop is much faster. And you understand from the advertising campaign and the...
Yeah, but with AI, it's even faster now.
Yes.
So I'm working with a B2B business, And we basically have an automation that takes all the sales calls that happened last week, the closed ones, and then the ones that are we're not really sure where they're going. And we look for the patterns in both of those
love that.
things. So we just have an agent feeding that into Claude and then using it for top of funnel marketing for the closed sales calls. So what pain point brought someone into the funnel? What did they think our solution was going to deliver for them? That just feeds the machine for meta advertising. And I think actually one of the interesting things that I've seen crop up in every single talk today is, even though we're a B2B audience, the suggestion by all the speakers is that B2B businesses need to hire B2C marketers because B2B customers are still consumers. And so they're still doom scrolling on TikTok, they're on LinkedIn, they're in all of these other channels. And so we're seeing this huge shift from, B2C marketing creeping into B2B marketing. So I had a few people add me on LinkedIn who have B2B creator marketplaces. And, I think a lot of the trends that have paid off in B2C marketing are now coming into B2B marketing. Like, people are paying creators, there's still affiliate links, there's brand deals and partnerships in the same way, but the content engines are very different.
They are. But what I'm seeing is also that finally the B2B companies are waking up to that call of, okay, if software is getting commoditized, right? Where is your value? Where is your differentiation point? And brand comes to mind quite often, and they understand that they can go into maybe other verticals or territory segments, and get this growth machine on autopilot if they just understand what works and doesn't work. So they're stealing those tactics from B2C.
And we're seeing a lot of B2B companies become more opinionated. I think in the earlier days of B2B software, everything was about, everything can be customized, right? And everything is buttoned up, everything looks blue. And now, one of the examples I gave in my talk was when we talk about how do you build a positioning platform that connects with different identities, you look at Linear versus Jira, right? Mm-hmm. Linear has grown so much faster than Jira. Jira is a very big business, but Jira is fundamentally talking to project managers, and Linear is talking to software developers who have a very particular point of view on how software should be built. It's not about endless customizations and workflows and the way that they've actually built their products. It's ingrained in a belief that there is a particular way for software to be built, and it follows this workflow rather than the Jira endless customization piece. And so you see really opinionated businesses growing a lot faster because they're connecting with beliefs and values and someone's fundamental identity. There's another business called goodfit.io, and it's a go-to-market software business that's competing with the likes of Clay. And they have an extremely opinionated founder about how you go to market. And he believes there is only one way in which you go to market, and it's not endless customizations and pulling data from here, there, and everywhere. There is a process that you follow. And so we're seeing this very opinionated, founder-led brand come across more so, which you've seen in sort of, I guess, challenger brands in the B2C side. We're now seeing that trend come into B2B.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been there. The founder of Basecamp is very, very, very opinionated, and it has a huge tribe of followers. And the product sits in a very, it's a red sea out there, but they picked the little sweet spot where it's simple enough, and there's enough cool features, and they're very opinionated. So if you agree with the ways they're doing things,
SaaS founders, in majority of cases, they are opinionated.
Yes.
In majority of cases. I look through my agency and the clients that we've been working with, majority of those founders are really strongly opinionated.
But some of them are not voicing their opinions.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Some of them are really shying away from voicing their opinions, but they are opinionated.
Exactly. But they're letting that personality come through. And I think Chris from ClickUp, who presented earlier this morning, he was saying we'd show up at conferences in these awful purple suits because we needed to get attention. Yeah. Right? It's the classic ABCs of marketing: attention, branding, communication. Mm-hmm. First, let's put something weird out there. It's like Stephen Bartlett used to wear a weird top hat, and his office had a slide. just get
Silly
people's
haircut.
attention, right? Yes.
Maybe that was his pick.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stephen. I don't know if you're ever going to watch this, but I like your haircut now better. I know which camera I'm talking to. What I also wanted to ask, in the name of founders, like especially early stage founders here.
Yeah, I wanted kind of to back
Yeah.
up with the story a little
Yes.
bit to more beginners
Yeah.
who heard about positioning. They believe positioning is quite important, but not sure what is it so important about, especially in the early stage.
Yes. So can you speak to the early stage founder or a new founder and say, okay, what is the positioning done wrong, or what is the positioning done right? How?
Yeah. I'll talk
Evaluate that.
talk about some of the steps to get there, if that's okay. So I think the first place that I always start is jobs to be done. So what's the push, pull, anxiety, inertia? It's the classic Bob Messer, Clayton Christensen, you know, what's the pain point that's driving someone to find a new solution? What's attracting them to that new product? So if you're an early stage founder and you've just launched a business and you start posting about it on LinkedIn, people are trying it out, people are signing up, get on the phone with them as quickly as possible and just understand what's the situation that they're in, what's the motivation, and what's the outcome that they want to achieve. And so I think getting to that understanding very quickly then helps you ask questions like, you know, what other solutions are you weighing up right now? That helps you figure out your category. How much is this problem worth solving to you? How much are they willing to pay? And that gets you to the context and the category very quickly. And then you can move on to the identity piece, but early stage, you're really trying to figure out, do you have a clear value proposition that meets a customer's need? Do you have a clear category that you're placing yourself in? And often I see early stage founders trying to come up with these brand new categories that have never been invented before. Just be clear. Just use your first customer's words. Don't try and come up with this automated data platform system, whatever. Use real language. Like clarity is underestimated these days. And often I see founders who are trying to pitch to investors say that they're building some sort of next-gen AI-led all-in-one. It's like...
A trigger word.
I think
it's too much. It means that it means that if that's the value proposition that sits on your website, you're confused about who your customer is. And when I do due diligence with VCs, if I see that, I'm like, I'm not sure that they know who their ICP is yet. So let's figure out if they do
that was kind
internally.
of part of my question, because you as an expert in positioning, you can see like from the airplane when someone is not doing it right. Yeah. And what we see often is that someone has been doing it that way for quite some time now.
Yeah.
What are the first things that you see, for example, on a website?
I see
that they are like totally mispositioned.
Yeah. So there'll be some sort of all-in-one solution for every scenario. That's like a dead giveaway. They'll have a landing page with 2 CTAs going down 2 different routes. That might mean that they're trying to test out who they have product market fit with. So it's not completely a bad thing. But if there's 2 completely different products speaking to 2 very completely different people, it means they haven't really figured out who their ICP is and how they go to market. So I think those are some of the red flags in the early days, but there's different ways to experiment.
Yeah. I've seen these problems even with, honestly, the startups and the startups that they hit product market fit. There is a huge pool from the market. There's a massive PLG, like they're growing organically. There's a big, word of mouth pool. But they still are very confused when it comes to their positioning and their values, even though the users are telling them what is it that they're good at and why are they using their product. It feels like they're so in love with other bits of the product that they just can't, shake it off, or that they don't want to shake it off.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, the other thing that you see is a landing page or a lead magnet filled with features, not solutions to problems and talking about problems. And I think if we go back to the dating example, like the best founders ask questions. So I'm sure that when you were on the first date with your partner, they asked you questions, right? They wanted to understand who you were. They didn't just sit there and say, I'm so-and-so, and this is my CV, and these are all the things that I've done, and I have these great attributes. It was a 2-way conversation. And so some of the companies that
I came out like that, like, this is me. I'm going to tell you everything about me right now.
Yeah, I think one of the
Yeah.
one of the most important, skills nowadays is being able to ask good questions, right? It helps you with relationships. It helps you build great companies. It helps you understand people. And that's something that AI can really automate. A lot of businesses who I go into, they're like, oh, yeah, we speak to our customers. They have an automated survey. They have some sort of like chatbot that's asking questions. It's not a real human connection that you're having when you just automate these flows, because you want to understand how did this person feel when they were trying to solve this problem? What was going on in their life at the time when they were trying to do X, Y, and Z with their company and manage their family life? And there's all of these layers of complexity that you start to get from having real conversations. And so if I see a landing page that's like feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, it means this person probably hasn't spoken to their customers. They don't understand the problems that they're trying to solve. Instead, they're just pushing features. And it's like being on a bad date.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And you just mentioned you're against using any automation tools to interview and speak to your clients, because there's a bunch of AI tools out there that can just, it can interview your client in a certain way, but there's just a set line of questions. They don't deviate too much, I guess. They can't read the emotions, as you said.
I'm sure we'll get there in a few years, but I think when you're on a video call or in person with somebody, you have the opportunity to ask the next why, right? So why were you thinking that? Why did you do that? When you have an automated flow, and again, maybe we're just not here yet, but maybe we will be in the future, you can dig a little bit deeper into the questions that are quite meaningful, that might uncover a really emotional moment, or maybe something that actually the business could build and another problem that they can solve in the future. Where I think it is really relevant to use AI is like granola, you can ask after the call recording, what are the user's jobs to be done? Or if you're not using a tool like that, then I have a jobs to be done analyzer where the output comes out exactly around what I need to do positioning work. So there's a lot of things that you can automate now, but the human conversations are, I think, quite important to stay live.
And you mentioned why. Obviously, the most important questions ever. And I understand that Simon Sinek got really known for asking, for the
Start with why.
Start with why. But that actually comes from journalism. In journalism, like in the past 150 to 200 years, they always teach us the most important question is why. You start with why.
Yeah.
Then detectives use it,
Yeah.
That's the most important question there. So you need to be a detective and understand from a variety of motivators why a human being, your customer, is doing what they're doing and picking what they're picking and choosing to go this way or that way. What is your why? Why did you end up in positioning? What happened there?
I'm really good at asking annoying questions. So I studied psychology and design, and
I knew it.
I'm just very interested in human behavior. I'm particularly interested in how companies using AI, how it will shape company culture, how it will shape the way that we work, how it will impact the way that humans connect with each other. We're automating everything to a point where are we going to lose our ability to relate and understand in a really meaningful way? And so I think I'd like to say that my ICP tends to be a tech founder who doesn't know how to ask those hard questions. And I come in and use my EQ, that's my superpower, to ask the hard-hitting questions and really get under the skin of their customer and bring the emotion back into the marketing system, but also build those systems with AI to help companies achieve their goals. So, I'm a big believer in European tech. I think we've got a great ecosystem here. I'm American, but have no plans to move back to the States. And I think, I really love working with founders who are mission-driven and are solving really important problems, but haven't quite figured out how to communicate that or focus on their ICP in the right way.
This actually kind of goes straight forward into our hot take segment, because
hot take.
Hot take. Founders who are genuinely not aware of being mispositioned. And that's something I believe you find the most when you talk to your ICP, because many of them are not aware that they probably need you.
Maybe they are.
So sometimes they are. I think they realize they need somebody like me when their marketing is not quite working. A lot of the process internally feels like, I talked about this in my presentation, as drag, right? Like things feel slow.
So
Feels like the team is like walking through mud and they can't make decisions, and we don't know which customer are we focusing on, and there's a debate every week and things have just slowed down. And I think I usually come in at the point where things are a little bit of a mess. And founders tend to like me because I cut right to the chase. I can see all of the bullshit going on in the corporate politics, and I say, okay, let's start with the customer, not the internal argument. So I think, again, founders who are a bit more self-aware tend to come to me and say, we have this problem. And there's a legal tech business. The founder came to me a few weeks ago, and they said, I can see the market changing, and I know my value proposition needs to be reshaped. And that to me is an understanding and admittance that we need to get ahead of the problem before it really impacts the ability to raise a Series A, the valuation of that Series A, hiring a team after you raise that Series A. How do you have those growth foundations in place? So typically the inflection point is we're going to go raise money. And we need to think about, how do we pitch to investors? How do we make sure we get the right valuation? How do we make sure that we've got all of the growth foundations so that when they hire the head of growth or the head of brand or a sales team, that they actually have all the tools to take that funding and go and do a really good job.
But I want to kind of reposition my question a little bit differently. See what I did there?
I see.
There are a lot of marketing people who are watching us, and majority of them in SaaS companies are probably aware that there's a problem with positioning, but they don't have your expertise and knowledge to communicate that to the founders.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a scenario where founders are not aware of being mispositioned.
But marketing is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Marketing is. How do you tell a founder that the business they built is not the one they should be growing?
I mean, if you look at the metrics, if their conversion's dipping, if their lead magnets are struggling, then it's about putting a test and learn process in place that maybe the current pitch is not right. I don't know if that's the right answer to your question.
I think that's the thing with the hot take. There's no right answer.
Otherwise, you corner them and you give them some that little alcohol.
Okay, so we have a very important discussion. There you go. I know you love me, and I love you, and I love this company, but I've seen a lot of the drag that you describe. In the past year, after I exited my growth agency, I've been mostly invited into the companies that are just starting to develop. They just hit product market fit. They're heavy on product-led growth. They didn't have a proper marketing team, so they invited me to shape the marketing team and to sharpen out the positioning and the messaging, understand the values. And it's very, very fun when you can immediately build from scratch. But when you come into the team already, it's kind of misaligned, and there is this, humidity in the air. It's like the air is very thick. How do you align the team to follow you and the new positioning and convince them that the repositioning is needed and what you're doing is the right thing to do? Is it testing the numbers or something that you do?
Well, it's starting with what are the metrics that we want to change? If we don't know that, then it's quite a challenge, right? We want to come in and understand, does the business have a North Star metric? Do we all have something that we're pulling our weight against to actually hit? And then what are some of the growth levers? There's a guy called Matt Lerner who's written a book called Growth Levers, very good book. So we establish the North Star, we understand which levers we want to pull, and then we think about the positioning in the context of the commercial goals. And then typically there'll be a salesperson and a marketing person who are each in charge of particular levers to pull, and we get the baseline metrics for those. And, part of what I do is, what's a better word for stakeholder management, right? You go into an organization and first you hear from the sales team, what's going wrong? And then they blame everything on marketing,
Yes,
and
and
then
the
you go to the
marketing
marketing
blames
team and they say,
everything on
well, the sales team sucks. And so you do start to pick up, like, what are the patterns? And then typically I have a presentation where it's like, okay, here's what everyone's saying about each other. Here's what the customers are saying about you. And then there's some truth in all of it, right? And so there's a bit of an exercise of taking the business on that journey of what's the customer truth, what's the data telling us, what's sales saying, what's marketing saying, how do we build workflows and systems where marketing and sales can communicate better, the product can deliver against what the customer is looking for, and how do we package that up into the value proposition, our differentiated value, our category, our pricing. And so, yeah, it's being quite democratic, I think, but asking hard questions and sometimes revealing where there's friction and helping teams work through that. So I'm a therapist a bit.
Yeah, exactly. You are a little bit of a therapist, but to every single, probably go-to-market function within an organization, including the founders. So you're speaking to multiple stakeholders. And I want to point this out because a lot of times marketing people is in charge of positioning and they work in a silo. Like they only talk to their own people or a head of marketing is talking to the founder. They don't really speak very well with the sales people or let alone go to the support and try to dig information and prompt support that is in, the front line with the customer. Shall we move to the signal?
3, 2, 1. Signal.
An app positioned as a simple system of records will never get massive traction, right? It's now quite obvious that with the cost of coding that has collapsed and it being easy very, very easy to build an app. The value was never the app, the value was never in the features, not even in data anymore, right? Yeah. So what's the winning positioning focus for the app now, and what will it be in 5 years?
For all apps.
Let's say
apps.
B2C apps.
B2C apps. Wow. If an app can make it enjoyable to check in every day or every week, where you're giving a customer, it's about value creation, right? So it doesn't matter if it's an app, if it's a message, if it's it's about value creation. So it's fixing a problem for a human. So I think it almost doesn't matter whether it's an app or a website, or as long as it's helping improve someone's life, then that can be the role. How it's delivered is the thing that I think is changing the most, right? And whether or not people are paying for that value or getting it for free, but then they're the data.
Yeah.
so maybe they'll be sold at some point.
Yeah, I read recently that, do you know Weight Watchers? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they 6 months ago, yes, yeah. Exactly, they repositioned. What do you think about that?
I think that we're moving to a world, like at a macro level, where we're becoming more impatient, and quick fixes are the name of the game, right? So you go onto Claude, you get a response, depending on which model you're using, in 10 seconds, right? And you get a complex answer to a problem in seconds. Google was just giving you yes or no, or it's this website. You're getting work done in seconds. And so it's the same with our health. We're looking for quick fixes to deep fundamental issues where, maybe diet and exercise is not enough. But so I think we're seeing companies reposition to products and services that give people the dopamine hits. Right? You start seeing businesses in the health space that are giving people pills to stop drinking. We're essentially dulling our senses. Like that's what GLP-1s do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so we're becoming more impatient and we're taking less time to slow down. So I think at a market level, I think it's quite an interesting shift in consumer expectations and what.
But did they really need to reposition? Like Weight Watchers they did their own thing for quite some time now, and they reached the cap of it.
Yeah.
And I think there will always be people. unfortunately, the trend is rising for the people who need to lose weight.
Yeah.
Why reposition?
I mean, I think it's less repositioning for Weight Watchers and more just changing the product, the way in which you solve the problem that people are still coming to them for, right? They have huge brand awareness, particularly in the United States, and products that they sell in drugstores, and whether it's like a shake or anything. And so they're just expanding their addressable market to the people who want the quick fix. So
Do you have any ideas or scenarios where you think that repositioning is actually a bad idea?
I don't know. I'd have to think about. I think sometimes founders just want to reposition with a fancy new category that no one understands, just to sound innovative, right? One of the companies that I worked with, which is a health brand, the founders were very adamant that they had to build a new category that no one's heard of. And it made marketing very hard for a very long time. It's still quite hard. And so they launched a different product in a well-known category, and that business grew very quickly. And so I think sometimes founders are just trying to be innovative to raise capital. And so that's where repositioning, I think, can sometimes be a bit tricky. It might hurt you in the end if it's not clear what your value proposition is.
It's weird that there are founders out there with successful businesses that are still thinking about it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's mind-boggling to me. Like, you have something, it's working, and let's follow the basic developer's rule, which is if everything works, don't update.
Yeah. Repositioning is fundamentally reinvention, right?
Yes.
And so
And it's very hard.
sometimes there's the midlife crisis reinvention, and it's not quite necessary. Maybe it makes you feel good for a short period of time, but is the reinvention necessary, or is it a distraction from the marathon of growing a business, right? It's I think sometimes I worked with a brand in Germany 3 years ago who spent £250,000 working with a leading design agency to reposition the brand. Didn't think about which customer they were focusing on. So a lot of the work that we do at the beginning is deep segmentation and analysis of the existing base. Who's going to drive the lifetime value? They didn't do that. They also didn't speak to customers. So they had this beautiful visual identity because the founder wanted to revamp the brand ahead of raising money. They did raise a lot of money, but then when they relaunched the brand, it completely failed because it was designed for Gen Z, and actually their best customers were older millennials who had very different value systems and wanted different things out of the product. And so it's not just the $250K that's spent on the visual identity refresh, it's the probably millions of dollars, pounds, euros that is invested in updating the product, changing the website, changing the design systems, embedding that system into the company. And so if you're just doing it to look sexy at a fundraise,
There's a lot of that.
Exactly. Exactly.
My sister-in-law calls me older millennial. She just said it. And it just
I'm an
clicked
older
on it.
millennial. Yeah.
And she does this weird thing, Gen Z thing, older millennial, and I don't know what it is about. We have founders here at Sastanak who are not still actually founders, who just started something. And there's a competition for them, and they will be the ones carrying out the future, hopefully. And you're here right now. Give us 5 things for those founders that are must-have from the very get-go.
Talk to people. Have real conversations. Don't be afraid.
User base is super small. They just
That's
started.
okay. That's
Start with
okay.
whatever
Just
you
get
have.
on the phone with people. So that's number 1. Put yourself out there. Don't hide behind the laptop. Go out and tell people what you're building and why you're building it and what problem you're solving. So all those customer conversations. Build an AI automated workflow that helps you push that message out about the problem that you're solving and the people that you're already working with. So act bigger than you are. Think about building a media empire around your business. So don't be afraid to sell. So many of us are afraid to post on LinkedIn. We're afraid to sell. We're afraid to talk about our story. People love people, right? If you look at Richard Branson, I don't know if that's safe to talk about in an Epstein world, but it's a good example. He has more followers than any of the Virgin Media brands, right? So people follow people. And so build your founder brand, tell your story. So talk to your customers, tell your story. Those are 2 things. Make sure you get enough sleep and take care of yourself. Honestly, I think balance is really important these days. build a culture that people want to come and work in. The amount of companies who are remote and everyone's on Slack and everything's automated and there's zero company culture. I don't want to show up and work at a company like that. And so when you understand your customer and you tell your story and you're a founder that's thinking about, the things that you do outside of work, then you attract other people who also care about balance and mission and vision. And so building a great culture is important, which means have time in person. We do live in a remote working world, but the moments where I spend time with my clients or businesses that I'm more of an advisor with and we spend time together, we have much more meaningful conversations. So point 1 and point 4 are pretty similar. Spend time with other humans. Tell people who you work with that they've done a good job.
Give us 3 metrics they should track to know that they're following your path properly.
Oh, okay. Some sort of measurement of customer acquisition cost. And you can find benchmarks very easily of whether you're B2B or B2C, your lifetime value and your net promoter score. So how much do people love your product? How much would they recommend it to somebody else? If it sucks, then usually your recurring revenue is not going somewhere positive.
Not really good.
Amazing. These are really good. That's what I wanted to hear for the new ones, because we have a lot of new builders
For the baby.
here. Yes, we have a lot of new builders here, and people who are generally interested to learning much more. And I want to kind of to cover that as well. For the advanced ones.
I think she said so many great stuff about the people, carrying the torch of positioning, the marketeers, trying to push very hard. Shall we wrap it up with rapid fire questions?
Absolutely.
Rapid fire questions.
Rapid fire.
So we're going to read 5 to 10 questions.
10 questions.
Okay, 10 questions.
You
I started
have to
with
pick
5.
one,
Okay.
this or that. There's no both or none or something like that.
Okay.
And it has to be rapid fire.
Okay.
Ready? All right. High LTV customer you can barely acquire, or low LTV customer you can acquire all day.
I know.
It hurts.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts. High LTV customer and build a brand that has lots of perceived value, but you need to raise more money.
Okay.
Sorry, that's not this or that.
Position for the customer you have or the customer you want.
The customer you want.
Kill the ad that's converting but miscategorizing you, or let it run another quarter while you fix the brand work.
Fix the funnel.
Fix the funnel.
Okay. Tell the founder their ICP is wrong, or let them learn it from the burn rate.
Oh,
Tell them it's wrong. Tell them it's wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
I expected a different answer there.
Yeah. I talk to founders about this. What's your learn rate versus your burn rate?
Yes.
And if your learnings are outweighing your burn rate, then typically your burn rate's going to go down.
Yeah. A category nobody's named yet, or a category everyone's fighting over?
Everyone's fighting over.
really?
Yeah.
We have to keep moving.
Okay.
King of something small, or contender in something huge?
King of something small to start with.
Move up market, or stay where your reputation lives?
Move up market.
Clarity or intrigue?
Ooh, in today's world, intrigue. Clickbait.
Oh
Every
my
time.
God.
Be unmissable to a few, or acceptable to many?
Admissible to a few.
Differentiate on what you do, or who's it for?
What do you do?
Sara, everyone. Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking with you, and I hope you will have an amazing rest of the Sastanak for everything that we can do for you. You know where to find us. We'll be in the same room
Yes.
quite for some time. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you very
so
much.
much.
I appreciate your time.